Trying to keep up with AI, it really feels like a sprint sometimes, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Every day there's something new, something potentially
And
game-changing.
you want to know what's important, but wading through it all, that takes time most of us just don't have.
Exactly. That's really where we hope to help. We do the sifting, the deep dive to pull out the key insights for you.
Welcome to the AI Daily Deep Dive. And here's something, well, pretty unique about today's session.
Oh yeah.
The entire deep dive, all the research, the structure, everything you're about to hear was researched and generated completely by AI.
So AI telling us about AI, that's fitting.
Think of us as your AI-powered curators for today.
Okay, I like that. And we've got quite a lineup today, actually. We'll be digging into DeepMind's AI learning Minecraft,
Wild stuff.
then AI's role in food innovation, which is surprisingly interesting.
Right. And then there's this AI reimagining of The Wizard of Oz for the Vegas sphere.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the EU's big AI continent action plan. And finally, the new FCC rules on AI voices in political ads. Lots to cover.
So let's get right to it. We'll pull out the crucial bits, give you what you need to know. First up, DeepMind and Dreamer playing Minecraft.
Yeah, this Dreamer AI, what's really insightful here is how it learned abstract ideas, like using tools, without someone explicitly programming that in.
So it wasn't just reacting, it was learning concepts.
Kind of, yeah. It moves beyond that older style of reinforcement learning. DeepMind really pushed it here. Dreamer taught itself Minecraft from zero. No prior game knowledge.
Right, no human data fed in, no instructions, it just figured it out. That feels like a big step.
It really is. It's a significant move towards that idea of general AI, an AI that can learn across different tasks, not just one specific thing.
Because that's been a hurdle, hasn't it? Getting AI to generalize, moving past reinforcement learning limit.
Exactly. Reinforcement learning. That's the reward-based system, right?
Yeah, like getting a digital treat for doing the right move.
Sort of. But Minecraft, it's way more complex than the usual test beds. It's huge, dynamic. You've got these complex goals like finding diamonds. That needs more general smarts.
So Minecraft was chosen because it demands that kind of flexible thinking.
Precisely. It's a great test for the kind of skills researchers want AI to have. And Dreamer's method was different. It didn't rely on outside data.
Yeah.
It used self-directed exploration. And it built this internal world model.
World model,
Yeah.
like its own understanding of the game's rules.
Yeah, basically. Like how, dropping something means it falls. Dreamer built its own internal physics understanding for Minecraft. It lets it predict what might happen next.
Okay, interesting. So how did it actually use that model to play?
Well, it involved 3 interconnected neural networks working together.
3 networks, yeah.
One was the world model network, predicting game states. Then an evaluation network, kind of giving internal feedback on whether actions looked promising. And finally, a decision-making network, using the info from the other 2 to pick the best action. They're all talking to each other constantly.
So it's this continuous loop of predicting, evaluating, deciding, learning as it goes.
You got it. It was essentially running simulations in its head, imagining futures to pick the best path. And the results, pretty good.
How good?
Well, they tested it on over 150 different Minecraft tasks. It often matched or even beat AIs designed specifically for those single tasks.
Wow. Okay, and the big one was mining diamonds, right? Doing that without any training.
That was the key benchmark they highlighted, yeah. It's complex, needs lots of steps in sequence. And Dreamer did it after about 9 days of constant play.
9 days. Wow. It's persistent. Hope they had a good cooling system.
Hey, yeah, it's a lot of compute time. A decent human player could probably do it in, 20 minutes?
Right.
But the point isn't the speed, it's that it figured it out independently. That really shows the power of this world modeling idea.
And the implication is, if it can build this understanding in Minecraft,
Maybe it could learn from other unstructured stuff, like watching videos online of real-world things.
now that gets really interesting. Learning from video, that could unlock a lot for real-world AI interactions.
Absolutely. But, the researchers are clear there are still big challenges. Efficiency is one, obviously. 9 days versus 20 minutes is a huge gap.
Yeah.
And, of course, the usual suspects, ethical considerations, regulations. As AI gets smarter, those become even more important.
Always. So wrapping up Dreamer, it seems like a solid step, maybe a leap towards more general, adaptable AI systems.
I think so. It really suggests this internal world modeling approach could be a key piece of the puzzle for moving beyond narrow AI,
Mm.
getting AI to understand the world more like we do.
Okay, fascinating stuff.
Hmm.
Let's switch gears now, from virtual worlds to the very real world of food, AI in the food industry.
Yeah, this is interesting because it's so practical, affects everyday life. There was a virtual event recently, State of Innovation in Food Manufacturing.
No.
And experts from places like Conagra Brands were talking about how AI is changing things up.
What kind of changes?
W-
Dealing with costs?
Exactly. They're facing inflation, supply chain issues, all that. So they're using innovation, especially AI, to cope, but also keep up with what consumers want.
Which is tricky, right? Consumers want new things, but companies need efficiency.
Totally. And tastes change so fast now, driven by social media trends. Remember that viral recipe last month? Gone now.
Yeah. Hard to know what's a real trend versus just noise.
That's the challenge. So the old ways of developing products, those slow stage gate processes, maybe not cutting it anymore.
Too slow for TikTok trends.
Pretty much. So companies are moving to more adaptive ways of working, being quicker, more responsive, and AI is a huge enabler for that.
How are they actually using AI then?
Primarily data analysis, looking at huge amounts of behavioral data, what people search for, talk about online, and, crucially, what they actually buy. Companies like Conagra use AI to spot emerging trends way faster than old-school market research. They talked about cutting product development from, say, 6 months down to maybe 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Wow, that is a serious speed up. A huge advantage.
Definitely. So AI helps predict what new products might hit big, but it's not just about new flavors.
No.
It can also spot chances to reposition existing stuff. There was a cool example. AI saw the buzz around GLP-1 drugs, the weight loss ones. So Conagra used that insight to look at their existing products and market some as suitable for people on those medications.
That's really smart.
Right.
Very reactive to current events.
Isn't it? And AI also helps tweak the actual food formulas, optimizing taste, texture, maybe cutting costs by adjusting ingredients, or tailoring products for specific groups based on diet or buying habits.
Makes sense. Of course, they mentioned legal stuff too.
Yeah, regulatory and legal aspects are definitely part of the picture as AI gets more embedded.
So overall, AI is becoming this key tool for food companies to stay nimble, balancing innovation demands with economic pressures.
That's the takeaway. It helps them be more agile, more tuned into consumers, and faster at getting relevant stuff onto shelves.
All right, from food to film. A very iconic film, actually. The Wizard of Oz is getting an AI makeover for the Las Vegas Sphere.
Yeah, talk about a collision of old and new. They want to adapt the 1939 classic for that absolutely massive wraparound sphere screen.
Which sounds technically challenging. The original film is, what, standard definition 4:3 aspect ratio?
Exactly. On 35mm film, not exactly designed for a 16K wraparound display that's stories high.
Not even close.
So Warner Bros. Discovery teamed up with Google Cloud and a company, Magnopus. They're using AI to basically blow up and expand the original film.
Using Google's AI tools, like Veo and Imagen.
Right. Veo, Imagen, and Gemini. They've developed specific tools for this massive undertaking.
Okay, so what are these AI tools actually doing to Dorothy and Toto?
They're using 3 main techniques, basically. First, super resolution, using AI to upscale the old film frames to super high def so it looks sharp on that giant screen.
Okay, upscaling. Makes sense.
Second is outpainting. This is where the AI intelligently extends the scene beyond the original frame. It fills in the sides to fit the sphere's width.
So it's not just stretching it, it's generating new image data, like more of Munchkin Land.
Exactly. It creates new visual stuff that ideally blends seamlessly with the original. And the third part is performance generation.
Performance generation.
Yeah, making sure the actors' original movements and performances look natural within these newly expanded AI-generated backgrounds, trying to avoid that uncanny valley CGI look.
Right. Jim Dolan from Sphere called it a leap of faith. Sounds appropriate. What are people saying? How might audiences react? Purists might not be thrilled.
That's definitely a possibility. Michael Walker from Trilogy mentioned that. Film purists might worry it compromises the original artistic integrity, messing with a classic.
I get that. Wizard of Oz is sacred ground for a lot of people. They have a very specific memory of it.
For sure. But Walker also sees the flip side, the potential for AI to make these classics relevant and exciting for modern audiences used to, more spectacular visuals. It could keep the film alive for new generations.
That's a fair point. And what about the wider film industry? Could we see more of this, 2001 on the Sphere?
It's certainly being discussed. Experts mentioned films like 2001, Lawrence of Arabia, visually epic films could be candidates. Think about AI enhancing silent films with voice cloning or colorizing black and white movies.
Or even modern classics? Updating effects, maybe?
Could be. Or franchises like Star Wars, Blade Runner, potential for AI enhancements there too. But Boon Chu from CentaurLab.ai raised important points about creative intent and transparency.
Right, being clear about what's AI and what's original. And the ethics, the copyright.
All crucial considerations. It definitely pushes the boundaries of film preservation, doesn't it? It's not just restoring, it's reimagining.
A bold experiment, for sure. We'll have to see how it lands when it opens.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's pivot now to government and policy. The European Union has unveiled this big AI continent action plan. What's the core idea here?
This is a really comprehensive strategy from the European Commission. The main goal is to make the EU a global leader in AI, but with a distinctly European flavor.
A European flavor, meaning?
Well, several things. Yes, they want to boost AI innovation and development in Europe, but there's a huge emphasis on what they call trustworthy AI.
Trustworthy AI. Ethics, rights, safety.
Exactly. Making sure AI respects fundamental rights, is ethical, safe, reliable. That's central. They also want to boost economic competitiveness through AI while protecting democratic values and cultural diversity.
So it's tech development, but wrapped in these strong ethical and societal guardrails.
That's the idea. And it's backed by serious money and infrastructure plans. They're investing $10 billion between 2021 and 2027 just on setting up AI factories.
AI factories. Like manufacturing plants?
Heh. Not quite. More like high-powered supercomputing centers specifically geared for AI research and development, providing AI compute services. They've already picked sites for 13 of these across 17 countries, aiming to have them running by year-end.
Wow, that's a significant build-out of dedicated AI computing power.
It is, and they're planning even bigger AI gigafactories. Maybe 5 huge facilities, each with over 100,000 AI processors for training really large models, likely public-private partnerships for those.
So they're really focused on building up domestic capability, not just relying on outside tech.
That's absolutely key, digital sovereignty. They're also pushing a Cloud and AI Development Act to boost data center capacity, aiming to triple it in 5-7 years, and addressing the practical stuff like permits and energy needed for all this.
Because these things need massive amounts of power.
They certainly do. And data, too. You need good data to train AI. So they have a data union strategy to make more data available across the EU, but with strong privacy safeguards. They're setting up data labs in the AI factories, linking them to their common European data spaces initiative.
It really sounds like they're trying to build a whole ecosystem, compute, data, talent.
That's exactly it. They've got an apply AI strategy to push adoption in healthcare, manufacturing, public services, using their digital innovation hubs, and an AI skills academy to build up the workforce.
And how does this fit with the EU AI Act we've heard so much about?
It's designed to work hand in glove. The action plan provides the resources and support structure like an AI Act service desk and regulatory sandboxes to help companies actually comply with the AI Act's rules. It's all connected.
So the EU is really carving its own path, emphasizing trustworthy AI as a differentiator while building the hard infrastructure.
That seems to be their strategic wager, yeah. They believe focusing on ethics and clear rules can actually be a competitive advantage, attracting investment that values stability and responsibility.
Interesting contrast to maybe the US or China's approaches.
Definitely. It's a big bet on regulation and public-private collaboration, driving innovation in a specific, values-aligned direction. Whether they can pull it all together across 27-plus countries remains to be seen, but the ambition is clear.
Okay, one last stop on our deep dive today. Back to the US and the FCC tackling AI voices in political ads. This feels very timely.
It does. There's renewed focus as of today, April 11th, 2025, on an FCC action from earlier this year, February 8th, 2024 specifically.
Right. What did that ruling actually say?
The key thing was the FCC officially classifying AI-generated voices used in robocalls as artificial under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, the TCPA.
And classifying them as artificial under TCPA means?
It means those AI voice clone robocalls now fall under the existing PCPA rules, which require prior express consent from the person being called. You can't just blast them out without permission.
Ah, okay. So it brings AI voice clones under those existing robocall restrictions.
Exactly. This was driven by fears about misuse, spreading disinformation, misleading voters. That New Hampshire primary incident with the fake President Biden robocall really highlighted the potential for deception.
Yeah, that was pretty alarming. A clear example of the danger.
For sure. And the FCC's move happened while states were already acting. By early this April, something like 15 states had already passed their own laws on AI in political ads.
Really? What kind of state laws?
A mix. Florida, for example, requires a disclaimer like, created with generative artificial intelligence, AI, on ads using it. That started last July. Utah has even more specific audio and visual disclaimer rules.
So states are moving, and the FCC ruling adds a federal layer, at least for robocalls.
That's right. The FCC ruling specifically targets AI voices in robocalls, requiring that consent under TCPA. It's a more focused approach than, say, the EU's Broad AI Act, hitting a specific point of concern.
It really underlines that classic problem, doesn't it? Tech moves fast,
Yeah.
law struggles to keep pace.
It's a constant theme with AI. Regulation often feels reactive, trying to patch existing laws or write new ones after the tech is already out there and causing issues. It creates this really complex, shifting landscape for campaigns, tech companies, everyone.
Makes things tricky and underscores why these conversations about ethics and rules are so important, especially when it comes to politics and trust.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process of adaptation as AI gets more capable and more integrated into everything we do.
Well, that wraps up our AI news deep dive for today. Quite the range from AI learning games,
To shaping our food choices,
reimagining classic movies,
driving continental strategy.
and influencing election rules. It's pretty clear AI's reach is just growing wider and deeper.
It really is. And hopefully this AI-researched, AI-generated deep dive gave you a quick, solid handle on these important updates.
Saved you some time, we hope. So here's a thought to leave you with. Considering all these developments, from creative uses to potential misuses, what ethical lines around AI do you think are the most critical right now? And how do we, as individuals and as a society, get ready for a future that's going to be increasingly shaped by these technologies?
Something to mull over.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us for this AI Daily Deep Dive.